everyone, it's Sheri Rosenthal from Journeys of the Spirit, and I'm very excited today because I have one of my dearest friends with me, Catherine Just. And okay, I have to preface this. I've known Catherine, wow, since the year like 2000 or 1999. We worked together at Don Miguel Ruiz's office. Many of you might know he wrote The Four Agreements, an incredible book about personal growth and self-development. And she is amazing. I love what she's created over the last few years. And I have to share it with you. And I have to have her share it with you because it's really going to change. It's life-changing. So let me say this. Catherine does something very unusual. I have not found anyone else who does spiritual teachings quite the way she does. And she has a way of combining, spiritual teachings, personal growth, however you want to say it. But what she does is she uses the tool of photography to really have a shift in perception, and she uses it as a tool for transformation. And we just have to let her describe this because I can't do it in the way that she can. It's amazing. And many people, when they first look at her events, go, "Oh, I'm not really interested in photography. I don't want to do a photography retreat." But I just want to tell you, what Catherine does is so much greater than that, and it is so beyond that. And she's taken this wonderful tool of photography, created an incredible community of awesome women that are fearless and, want to create big and juicy in the world. And so without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Catherine. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you for having me.
I know. So, let's just get right into it. I want to know, and everyone else now obviously must want to know after that introduction, how do you use photography as a means for transformation or a way to shift perception? I would really love you to explain that more to our listeners.
I will. I would love to. When you were talking, it reminded me when we were working with Miguel Ruiz and we would put his power journeys together and we would go to Teotihuacan and I would bring my camera. And during that time, I was going through a bit of confusion about why creating my artwork was important. And I just thought, well, who cares about my art? Why even do it? I mean, it's all self-absorbed anyway. It just has to do with me, and who cares? And I kept asking myself that question over and over because I really wanted to know. I mean, should I move forward with photography, or should I just hang it up and try to find some other way of expression? Because it seemed kind of meaningless to me. And when I put the camera up to my eye and I looked through the viewfinder, what I found was that my own experience was that I saw God through the viewfinder. And I used the word God loosely here, but I really felt such a deep connection that story went away. My judgment about what I'm looking at went away, and what I saw was the eyes of the person looking back at me, and that brought me to love. So it shifted from my mind back into my body, and I was able to have a different experience than I was when I was like, why is this important, blah, 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 blah. And I didn't realize at that time that that was going to be sort of the preface for this new phase in my business, but it really is. And it includes looking at belief systems that are causing me and everyone else that come on journeys with me suffering. So it could be, I don't think I'm talented, I don't think I'm enough, I don't think I'm pretty, I don't think whatever the not enoughness happens to look like. And we use the tool of photography to get back into our bodies and see the truth, because the truth really doesn't have a story. And when I'm looking through the viewfinder, all I see is light falling on that subject. And even if the subject is me, because I tend to do self-portraiture as well, I can look at it from another point of view. I can look at myself with new eyes. And so for me, using the tool of photography to shift my perception has become a lifestyle for me. When I'm stuck in my mind at the office, I have my phone with me, I pick it up and I head outside and I look outside myself for a minute, and it grounds me. So it really is a tool for transformation in a very subtle way and a very profound way, because it can just stop the chatter. It can open my mind and my heart up to new possibilities, and it gives me an opportunity to see the world with a new point of view.
Wow, that's very profound. And tell me if I'm hearing this right. I know for myself, one of the things that Don Miguel Ruiz teaches, since we were just talking about that, and really most every other spiritual teacher, is about moving beyond judgment, because you find your happiness there. And I find, in general, at least this is my experience, that people have a very hard time moving past judgment. They don't even see what they're thinking as judgment. And when you're looking through the viewfinder, since it doesn't have an opinion, right? The camera doesn't have an opinion.
Right.
I think maybe that makes it easier for someone to really deeply ground into that concept of going beyond judgment. Am I understanding that
I
right?
think, yeah, and it reminds me, Miguel Ruiz did use the metaphor of the camera in his teachings, where we have our own projected film going on all the time, and we think we're the starring role in our own movie, and we think we know what's happening. We are constantly using our mind to judge the person in front of me and what they're saying and how they're saying it, how they're dressed, but we're also doing it to ourselves. And so to take a step away from that projector for a minute and look through a different projector, and for me it's the lens of a camera, it just is a shift. It's like, I would say that some of us use the tool of meditation or yoga or taking a hike, and I think it's the same, but I'm using photography in that way to shift, because our mind, we're so in a habitual spin, and we don't even realize that we're hooked by what our thoughts are telling us, and that it's been so long that my mind has been telling me I'm not enough and I'm not talented, that I don't even recognize it as a thought. I just think it's true. And so when I go on a power journey like I did with Miguel, or I study with a teacher who has done the same thing, I recognize that there is another way of seeing. And so that's really what photography does for me. It's like my meditation. It's my way to wake up over and over and over and over again until it becomes a new habit. And so photography is like the teacher for me. And because it's a frame, I mean, it is forcing me to see the world through this square or rectangle, however you want to call that. But it is a way to view everything. So if I, right now when I'm looking out in the world, I see the whole room, and there's a lot to see. But when I'm using the camera and it is focusing its attention, my attention, it really makes me pay attention to everything that's in that frame and what's important and what's not important to the scene. And it causes me to look at lines and texture and emotion, and how, if I move my body this way or that way, how does it shift the way the image looks? I mean, it just changes the conversation that's happening in my head, and I could use that. So I'm assuming others can too. I mean, it isn't necessarily about becoming a better photographer. I think that's sort of the end result of learning how to see and learning how to shift your attention.
Right. So in other words, if someone is taking any of your courses, whether it's an online course, a workshop, a journey, it doesn't really matter. It's not so much, I mean, it could be if they want about being a better photographer, but really this is more a tool for transformation. So people don't have to be afraid. They don't have to say, oh, I'm not a photographer or whatever.
No.
You're just using that is the actual tool to get clarity, to see what is the process that's going on in their mind that maybe is causing limitation in their life and preventing them from creating the beautiful dream that they'd love to have manifest in their life.
Yes, yeah? Yes. I mean, I have my favorite camera right here.
Get out.
I have many cameras. I have professional cameras. I have a 4x5 camera. I have a pinhole camera. I have a lot of vintage cameras that I love, and I bring them on my retreats, but daily I'm using my iPhone. It's just fast. It's simple. I love the apps. I love that I can then connect with my community by posting them online immediately and get instant feedback. And because my life is busy and I have a 4-year-old and I'm running a business, it's just become I had to accept the fact that the iPhone was a beautiful tool and that I could use that. It didn't have to be this stuck up, you know, and I have been stuck up little artist from art school who would not, you know, and that's really not what this is about. It's about acceptance and being where you are and pulling out the point and shoot camera. It doesn't need to be the fancy bells and whistles, and it really isn't about the f-stops and the shutter speeds. Although knowing those things can be empowering too. I do talk a little bit about that, but that's not really the focus of my retreats or my courses at all. It's more about where you're putting your attention and how do we shift it so you're not suffering so much. So.
Wow. So, okay, this is what I want to know. So, how can you shift your perception? How can someone shift their perception? And what tools do you actually use? I want to know the juicy.
Well, first I spin out, and then I realize that I'm spinning out. Like, there has to be a moment of awareness that I'm suffering. Even if I can't stop the inner dialogue. It's just like too important to me. I'm attached, but it's causing me suffering. And I notice it in my business when I get a little like I'm pushing and I'm trying to prove, I'm striving, I'm not getting where I want to go, and I'm frustrated. And so the first thing that I will do is give myself a break, time out. And I'll grab my iPhone and head out the door and just give myself 5 minutes or 10 minutes to go walk. And one of the things I like to do is look for clues from the universe, which is actually asking for answers. So if I have stuff going on, I start to look. And I'm looking for something. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm looking. And I do find things on my walks. And it is just the subtle, like it could just be that the pathway that I'm walking on shows me this really beautiful curve. And I take a picture of it. And I'm paying attention to the composition. And it shifts my attention back to the bigger issue, which is living in the world without this need to prove. I'm just being and noticing without attachment. Or I notice a crow and that reminds me of Miguel Ruiz and I think, oh, it's a power sign. Miguel just said hi. You know, I have little, like birds to me are a power sign. And different birds remind me of different teachers in my life. That's just my own little thing I've decided. So if I do see a crow, I notice it as a power sign and I take a picture. Or a pine cone might be glimmering in the light for some reason. Or there, you know, it could be any number of things. I have been driving down the street and there was a building that somebody was paid to paint "You Are Beautiful" along the whole side of this long building. And I couldn't deny that there was a power sign happening right in front of me, so I had to turn the corner and take a picture of it and put that up in my office, because I think it's just so easy for me personally to get stuck in whatever to-do list I'm in or striving or proving, and I need to detach. And that's one of the easiest ways for me to detach is going on a photo walk and looking for clues, and that means slowing down, and that means paying attention in a new way rather than what I think I know, really looking for things that might not make sense to other people, but to me, that crow meant a lot to me. So that's one tool that I would use. Another tool would be to give myself a project, like a daily photo project. And I do have an e-course now that's actually, I don't know if I'd call it an e-course because I'm not as involved. You don't have to show up at a certain time, but it's a 30-day photo project where you pick one subject and you photograph it every day for 30 days.
Wow.
And that, for me, has been life-changing. And I'll tell you, the quick version is that I gave birth to my son, Max, and there's this thing called nap time. And usually during nap time is when I'm done. Like, I need to check out, unplug, go eat my lunch, check my email, and watch reruns of I hate to say it, but The Housewives of Beverly Hills, okay? So, and what would frustrate me during that time, I would sing to him, and I would read him stories, and I'd rock him, and he would just look at me like, "You're cute, but I'm not going to sleep." And I would be like, there was smoke coming out of my ears. I mean, I was already out of the room mentally, and I was just frustrated, and this was happening. It was like Groundhog Day. And so I finally realized, like, nap time's not going to change. I need to do something to change the way that I'm experiencing it. So I brought the iPhone with me, brought it to the bedroom, and when he fell asleep, I would hold up the camera like this and close my eyes next to him and take a picture. And what happened was I really recognized that there was something sacred happening that I was totally missing. And the way the light was falling on us was beautiful. The way he was curled up and like he would be right here with his arms around me and and I didn't recognize it because I wasn't in the room. I had already left the building. And so that became a 2-year project, almost 3-year project of this nap series that really transformed my relationship with my son because I was present for it. And it showed me things about our relationship, and it also documented something over time which will end. And so nap time has ended, and now I have this amazing documentation of this sliver of our relationship and of Max that I can show him. And so that's tool number 2. is finding those things that frustrate you and start noticing how the light is falling on frustrating situations. And then the third tool I would say is really getting outside yourself. Like all these things are ways to get outside of your mind and shift your perception. And the third one would be to take an e-course, to go on a retreat, to find a teacher who has a different point of view than you do. And I think being open to that and being willing to step outside your regular 9 to 5, whatever that is, or your life with your kids or whatever, is really deepening the experience that you have with yourself, because you really are given permission really to sit and take in new information rather than just trying to get 5 minutes in, and that is me sometimes. Sometimes that photo is just a snapshot and I'm still wanting to leave the room, but I did have that moment of shift and then I shift back. But to have it for a consistent amount of time, whether it's in an e-course where you're in 6 weeks with a teacher in a new community of people who are like-minded and they too want to shift something in their lives, or going away on a retreat, has been by far the most transformative for me. Being on a retreat with Miguel, going on a retreat with Sheri, and my own, I feel like when I lead a retreat, I'm on it too. I mean, I'm dealing with the same things you are, but I have some experience with using photography and using some spiritual teachings. So I'm going through it with you guys, and I just think those 3 ways have really helped me to continue the process of shifting. I don't think it's done. I think it's a process, but they've all been really helpful for me. So
well, this is what I love about you. Okay, and you probably laugh about this, but okay, my one way of detaching has always been to run in the bathroom and throw cold water on my face. But when I hear you talk about, just going outside for 5 minutes and photographing, that is such, what to me is very powerful about that is that you're making some time to actually shift from one side of your brain to the other. So you're going from mind to creativity. My tool of running in the bathroom probably doesn't do that as well. You know what I mean? But all right, so I spray some water. But that is really powerful, Catherine, because it only takes a few minutes, and I can see how really fabulous that would be, because it's just making you, in a non-forceful way, engage a different part of your brain. And as soon as you do that, go from one side to the other, left and right brain shift, it does it for you. Right. So that's such a graceful way of doing that. That is amazing. And the other thing that I really felt was powerful about what you said is, I think so many of us are struggling to be present in our life. There's so much hooking our attention in every different direction. And I know for me, I get caught up in multitasking. I think a lot of women do more than men. They're like so linear, and we are like taught to do 14 things at the same time. But when you think about that, it's really not being present in your life, because being present means, you're there 100% in what you're doing, giving it your all. And what you're talking about is such a gift, because it's a training for learning how to be more present in your life. It's a tool that all of us could benefit from more deeply, because we can put that in practice in our work, in our interpersonal relationships, to really show up and be there 100%. So listening to you talk about that is really inspiring to me. And I never really thought about just taking my iPhone. I mean, I have one, and just doing that for a break for 5 minutes. So I really hope people who are listening to this realize the power of what you just said. So I want to know some tools for being more present in your life because that really resonated for me, and perhaps being a better photographer. But really, I'd like to hear a little bit more about that if you could share
About being
with
more
me,
present?
please.
About
Yeah,
being a better photographer and being more present?
yeah, yeah.
Well, being more present for me is that moment where I can shift my perception, but it also does, like you said, like it's a habit that I'm forming through the use of photography, but then the camera can be there or not, because then, you know what? Okay, I'm going to tell you something. There's a lens that I love. I just got goosebumps. It's weird. I have a love affair with a lens. And it's a
Really?
lens that I put on my 35 millimeter digital camera. It's a 50 millimeter lens that opens to 1.8, I think. I have it up here. But regardless, what it does is whatever's really close to you is in focus and everything else is out of focus. And so I'm forcing the viewer to look at what I think is the most important thing in that frame. And it sort of, if you're far enough away from the things in the background, they become a texture. And you've probably seen it in wedding photography or headshot photography where the person's face is in focus and everything else looks like little circles of green because there's a tree or something like that. And that's really the power of that particular lens. But what I've noticed is, and I'm getting goosebumps again, it's so crazy, but when I put the camera down, I start to see the world in 1.8.
Wow.
And it's just this subtle shift where then all of a sudden I can't stop seeing the thing that I'm focusing my attention on as being the only thing in the room, and everything else is sort of blurry. And I love 1.8. I love that it has the power to, if I use it enough, to really actually shift my perception in the world of what's in focus and what isn't. But what a metaphor for life, because I think that I mean, in the worst sense, we're so focused on this little thing that we think is so giant. I didn't get invited to that party. They don't like me. And then for hours, I've just spent...
Yeah.
And this just happened. It's not like I'm making this stuff up. I mean, I get hooked by this little tiny thing, and it becomes the only thing in the room, and it's the only conversation that I'm listening to. And when I can wake up from that and recognize it and not judge myself for doing it and just say, oh, honey, it's okay, and it has nothing to do with you. I mean, that's really the power, what I see photography doing in my life, that I can also use in the real world without the camera. It's a power sign, like using this in my daily life. Taking a picture of one thing seems sort of mundane and boring, but it really can open you up to the possibilities of how to become more present in the moment. And that means not being here and not caring if you were invited or not, but really sinking down and knowing that I'm valuable just because I'm here. I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to have the best outfit on. I don't have to have my hair looking perfect. Maybe sometimes. You know what I mean? It's not about all that external stuff. It really is about sinking in, and the tool of photography really does help do that. Like I said, when I was on that power journey with Miguel and I was thinking, what's the point? Well, the point is I get a connection to that which is unknown, or that which I forget about because I'm so convinced that it's important to think about who doesn't like me. So...
Exactly.
Yeah, it feels almost seamless how photography can be used in that way. And I think people who are interested in landscape photography feel that too. I'm not a landscape photographer, but I do enjoy noticing the sunset at the ocean and taking a picture and recognizing what's important in that frame. And for that split second, I'm not really thinking about my to-do list. I'm really connecting with the world around me. And that, that's what's happening in Sedona when we go in April. I mean, that really is the opportunity that I can't wait to have, and that I've had when I go to Oregon or whatever photo journey that I've created. It's really an opportunity for me to step into a powerful landscape and learn to see again. And so hopefully when we go back to our lives, it will continue to be like 1.8. When we recognize we're dealing with 1.8, we can go, oh, I've attached to one thing that's not really important. I'm going to sink back in. So.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that. That gave me goosebumps. Now, one thing I think is really amazing is that for this particular trip, that's April 16th to the 21st in Sedona. For people who don't know, it's actually at a retreat center that a lot of people don't know about, and I've been there several times. It's a favorite of mine, which is why actually the event is taking place there, and it's very sacred, quiet land. It's like a 20-minute drive down a rocky road that seems in the middle of nowhere, and you're in this vortex of energy. As is actually for people who are into the energy thing. There are several vortexes on that property, and when you talk about combining the teachings that you're talking about right there, about being present, about shifting your perspective and using photography for transformation, and then combining it with what happens just being present on that land, that land, something about the energy of that land makes it possible to more easily let go, to process through some of this, to just say, okay, I am ready. I am moving past this. I want to change in my life, and I'm committed to it. And it's just the food. They do organic food there. And the land is quiet. The colors are beautiful. The light is amazing. The smells are beautiful.
Sheri,
The
let's just go
air is
now.
fresh. Let's go. Come on, let's go right
You're just
now.
making me really excited to go.
I know. And what is also interesting, because actually there are Korean people that own the land, and so there's a sacredness. Like when you go into the dining room, you have to take your shoes off. And it's vegetarian, and it's so soul feeding. And since your event is a soulful women's photography retreat, I think it is in such alignment to me. There's such an integrity there to be able to go to Sedona. And if you haven't been to Sedona, I mean, you got to go, because there's just nothing like it.
Yeah.
There is nothing like it. And so that makes me so excited to be able to talk to you about this. And I hope that for people who are listening, I'm conveying that. And I'm not saying it just because, I think everyone should go on this trip, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying this because I think that it's not often we do things that are very life-changing for ourselves, especially with women, and to take some time to get away, to feed your soul in this kind of way is profound. It's profound, and it's life-changing, and it's challenging, but it's amazing. And I think sometimes people just look and go, "Oh, I need to go on a trip," but this is so much more than this. This is like it's a trip of the heart. It's just so heart opening, and to be with other women in sacred circle and to be able to have this kind of profound experience is just beyond words that I can sit and discuss here. So I don't know what else you want to say about that.
Well, you know what? When you were talking, I was just thinking, my God, it has actually been the worst winter of my life. I can say that without a doubt, the hardest winter for me. And I can say, in January I got sick, and it just moved. It went from the cold to the flu to bronchitis, and then I got an ulcer in my eye, and then my son got the croup. I mean, it's just been one thing after the other after the other. And what made it the worst is just that I couldn't get out. I'm in Utah. It's freezing. There's so much snow, and I was sick, and so I couldn't even get outside to take in the fresh air because I would freeze.
Right. Oh,
and
my
so
gosh.
I am really looking forward to this. I feel like right now spring is starting to, everybody's starting to think like, thank God it's shifting. And to be in Sedona, where it's desert and it's beautiful, and there's a energy there that I feel I have been depleted from a bit of that because of being sick. I feel like, bring it, bring it, people. And so I'm looking forward to it. We do create an altar, and we do just on the ground, and we do sit around this altar, and it's just about It's not woo-woo or freaky or anything. I mean, I light a candle and we just sit and we think about what the intention is for all of us there. We all come with for different reasons and with different issues and with different points of view. And we've just traveled really, a ways to get to this place, and we've just had a winter. And so to sit and really create an intention for all of us as a connected group, not just individuals, but all of us holding space for each other, I think really helps me, and I know it's helped others, to really get into that energy of transformation and community and deepening your experience of yourself and the world around you. And that's really, that's just one of I have little projects that we work on throughout that I won't mention here, but they're not necessarily what you would expect at a photo retreat. So I need that. I need it to be about mind, body, and soul, and spirit, and creativity, and connection, and all of that. So I try my best to come with a multitude of ways to experience that during the trip. But I honestly think we could just go, park it, sit in a circle, and just be there. And we would be transformed because of the energy there. And so this, I just think, is just such an amazing opportunity for all of us to just be and remember to love ourselves and to let go of that insecurity stuff, or just love the fact that we feel insecure. Like, yes, it's present and it's okay. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to change, really. Just need to shift back to that space of being. So I'm excited. Wow. I'm really excited about it.
Wow. Gosh, Catherine, thank you so much for sharing all of this. I really appreciate it. And I think what you do is really profound. I hope you know that. It's just different. It's fresh. It's supportive. It's all of those things. And I'm really enamored with what you're creating in the world. And I know it's really challenging to be raising a child and, having a husband and working, and it's tough, for most women. And when we come together in community in this way to support each other, it's very nourishing. I just find it's something really very special.
I do too, and I feel like I do get very turned on by the idea of creation, whether it's a business or you're raising a child or you're in a marriage. Like, all of it is creation. But I think also it's hard for us to give ourselves permission to step away from striving, creating, proving, and all that stuff, and to fill up our cup, so to speak. And I need it. Meet me in Sedona.
All right.
If you can relate to that, I'll see you there with your camera. I'm ready.
Be there, be square, April 16th through the 21st in Sedona. And certainly you can find the event on both Catherine's website, which is catherinejust.com, and you can also find it at journeysofthespirit.com. And you'll see it on the Trips at a Glance page. Yay! Because it's coming up.
Yay!
And, if anyone has any questions, obviously you can contact Catherine, you can contact me, and we would be happy to help answer any questions you might have. And if you have questions whether this is the right experience for you, definitely don't hesitate and give us a call. And if you have any questions regarding anything that Catherine discussed, because she really gave us so much information today and juicy stuff, don't hesitate to contact us. So Thank you very much, Catherine, for being here with me today. You're a blessing, and I love you.
I love you too. You know what? I was just thinking it would be really neat. If people are ready to sign up for Sedona, I really want to gift them the 30-day photo project that they can start now, and then, start to practice shifting the perception. And when they're in Sedona, they can continue to take that daily photo, and it can become more of a habit and more. So I just want you to know, Sheri, if anybody signs up with you, to let me know, and I will send them the link, and they can just start the project. And for anybody who's already signed up, I'll go ahead and send them that link as well. So.
Oh my God, that is so generous and sweet. I know that project, that course is so beautiful, and what a very special way to work up to the retreat.
Yeah.
So you're already in that frame of shifting. It's like the shift begins
Yes.
before you even get there. It's like
really,
you set your
is,
intent.
that is really true.
Yeah, you set your intent and the magic happens. So thank you, Catherine. That's
Yeah.
very generous.
And thank you for the opportunity to just share about why, what is this about? People just, it has been confusing to people when they see that I'm a photographer and I'm talking about personal transformation, and I'm hoping that this will help people understand what I'm doing and why it's important to go on a retreat with your iPhone or your lenses. It doesn't really matter what you bring. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
I love you, honey.
I love you too.